food now.
Upside down.
The grapes.
We move back a bit. Yeah.
Fruit life. Fruit.
Yeah.
But I was actually saying to you that like I'm actually genuinely shocked at how nice. Like I haven't eaten anything at all today, so that's why I was like, right, let's get to.
Oh yeah. So I was wondering if they could, I wanted to have anything beforehand, and then things always taste better when you're hungry. But these were good. I got these yesterday, and sometimes I find the red grapes too sweet and sickening, and the green grapes sometimes can be too bitter or too sour. These ones are like, for green grapes, usually green grapes is like you nearly turn your nose up at them. But I'm like, no, these are doing it. Green grape.
No, these are definitely on the money.
Yeah. What?
I'm curious about how you got into more of like looking into like the fruit-based lifestyle and like looking into that direction. I'm very curious because I don't think I know this. I actually genuinely don't think I know how you find out about that. You may have told me like many years ago.
Probably not. That's a good question. I think where did it all come from? Well, as it came from, it's completely opposite. Where when I was 20, 21, like really got into start taking my training real serious. So I read all the books on what they said to do. So it's like it's like a high protein diet, 5 small meals a day, protein every meal, weight training. So I followed that principle, and that was like that paid off for maybe for a few years. But I always felt like I never felt so good on a high protein diet, but I felt like that's what everyone tells you to do. So it's your typical bodybuilding style. Chicken, broccoli, brown rice. And like it's good because it built like structure in my life. But I will say, after about maybe, I always felt bloated and puffy. So when I look back at pictures of me, like I put on weight, I got muscle, I got very strong, which is what I was doing, wanting for, is like to get as big and as strong as I could. But my health started to take a hit. So I felt like I was always really puffy and bloated, very inflamed, like always red, puffy, like holding maybe a stone of fluid. And I could never shift it. And I tried dieting down, but I always felt like, I held up puffiness. So what I did was I had an experiment. I thought this diet maybe isn't working, but I kept on anyway because there's nothing else out there. But I just felt more rubbish, and my energy started really crap. And I went to the doctors, and I said like I just don't feel great. And he sort of was asking, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm training and I'm eating like this. He goes, are you on any steroids or anything? I was like, no. I says, because you're trying to think, with the bodybuilding.
It's like compliment, it's just like, sorry. Like,
kind of way. I was vague. I says, no. I says, no. He says, right, let me take a blood test. He took a blood test and it came back and he said, there's an awful lot of protein leaking out of your kidneys.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, oh, right, now I was on a high protein diet. But it was really my kidneys. Now when I look back, I know like my kidneys were so backed up that it was just my lymphatic system was so congested. I thought like, oh my goodness. And I was maybe mid-20s, 26, and it caught up with me. But I still continued to do it anyway. I was like, well, sure, what doctor knows, like, I want to get big and strong. But I said to myself, I came across more YouTube videos, and I said to myself, I'm going to have to experiment with something. So it was very detailed in all I ate, calories and everything.
And I jotted it down and writing
jotted it down. Every macronutrient, everything was fine-tuned. And then what I did was, I said to myself, I always get my protein high, and I lowered my carbohydrates, lowered my fat, and every time I played around with that, I just suffered. I never got the results I wanted, so I said, I'm just going to lower the protein. Lo and behold, I said lower the protein and up the carbs because it's all about low carbs, and I was suffering, so I was like, no, I don't want to do it. So I did that, and I dropped like my grams of protein, like 10 grams, and then one day I upped my carbs 10 grams, and very subtle, but every day I felt a little better. And every day I kept doing it, I felt better and better, and all the inflammation died down, and we're by maybe a course a month. I was on a low protein, high carb diet, and I thought, I feel amazing, and my strength is through the roof, and I says, it's the protein that's been killing me the whole time. All that. So then I sort of go down the road of like, eventually I was a no protein, no animal protein, and I thought, well, maybe it's, and I leaned into more the vegetable proteins. I thought, well, I started to research more. I thought, wow, and then I got onto like, I realized, is it maybe blood type diet and things. So I tried with diets because I was a type A and thought, well, maybe it's because I'm maybe more than vegetarian. I felt a lot better in that, so I stayed with that more starch based. Felt great, like the best I've ever felt in my life. Sleeping better, really fresh skin. I got where I wanted. And then I just thought to myself, wow, is there more levels to this? So then I got into more like the high carb.
And kind of get better.
Better.
Yeah.
So I was like, then you know, from vegan, then I went, okay, well maybe start to go more raw vegan, and then start to go more. So then I went the raw vegan, and I felt better again. I thought, wow.
Was there like at that stage? Was there something that even showed you that there was a raw vegan lifestyle at that stage? Because most people don't just fall into and be like, maybe I should just go like raw.
It was YouTube.
Yeah.
So it was like watching some videos on YouTube. Because I always was researching, I always want to know why. So when I went like high carb, low protein, low fat, I always want to know why do I feel so good, and is anyone else getting this, and is it me? Am I a special butterfly? You know, I was like, no. And then I realized there's actually a high carb, low, community of like vegans. Yeah, I was like, they're actually experiencing what I'm feeling. But there's actually ones doing it raw and they feel even better. And I was like, what's all this about? And I thought, and then I came across that, I felt loads better. And then and the fruit and all was great. Now I got thinner and thinner, but I got healthier and healthier. Like my skin was glowing, like I looked like a teenager. I got very thin, but very healthy. And people were worried I'd lost so much weight, but I never felt as good. Digestion never as good, purred like a kitten. So I felt great. Great energy, no real strength, no real muscle mass. I lost a lot, but I was experimenting to see how far I could go. And then I fell into like, wow. And then it came into like fruits, and then like Dr. Moore's detoxification. And I felt like I just got more into like one or like mono diets or even fasting, because I dabbled with intermittent fasting. I felt better, and I thought less food's better and more natural food's better, and I got more and more. Now I went to the point where I basically I did some just fasting, and I went too far one way.
Too much.
I was like, I was just wasting away. But I wanted to see where that point was, and then I sort of fell back into more like the high carb vegan, where I felt good before, and I'll dabble with fruit, because at times in my life I thought, I felt great on fruit only. I did like 5 months in fruit, 100%. No more.
Really?
100%.
Oh, I've never done that.
Yeah, 5 months, nothing else. So never cooked nothing, just like pure Dr. Moore's. I did 80s and 10s, but then I did 100%.
In Ireland as well.
Yeah. And the first 3 months it felt amazing. 4 or 5 months, falling apart. Because it's too cold. You can't do without heat in this country. You can't do without hot water bottle, hot tea. It's too important. When people say, I'm tired, I've done every version and I am so iron willed to make it work. You can't in this climate. I don't know. People say, yeah, but I find it possible. So, but then come back to like more of a mucusless fine gin, because I do feel heavier. So at the moment, 2 to 3 meals a day. 3 meals if it's fruit based, maybe 2 meals if it's starch. It's not too heavy. I'm keeping the protein low. I've found always better for my kidneys, and I can feel it in my kidneys if my protein's too high. And then I used to try to want to put weight back on again, but pushing that amount of food through my system doesn't feel good. So I nearly prefer to be slightly slimmer, slightly leaner, and feel better than keep pushing food that's not calorically dense really, and it's just like burden my digestive system. It's like trying to find that middle ground.
I do think there is like a fine balance, and I think a lot of people go through that stage where they come onto like a fruit-based lifestyle, or maybe doing like majority like mucusless, and they're not eating enough, and they do start to get a little bit too lean. But I do think that over like years and years of like doing it and like mastering like being able to eat enough, especially more volume, because like the average person I don't think the average person could even eat like a pint of grapes.
No.
Without being like, oh god.
I know.
So
I don't know what they're doing. I keep thinking of this.
it does take work, because like I remembered myself. I think whenever I started, I think a 5 to 6 banana smoothie would have been like, was it? Oh, okay, right. But like after like hearing like no, you need to get more in. Like after a while, I was like, oh, I like to eat. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But now 20 banana smoothie. I could glaze that easy. Like
could you eat it? Eat 20 bananas?
Yeah.
On smoothie, you can eat it.
It would take me longer, but I can do it.
Yeah.
The same with dates. I can 600-gram box of dates is around like 1,500 calories. I can blend that and get that down in less than half an hour, right? And I remember hearing, "Oh, you should never blend anything on. I mean, you should never blend anything unless you can eat it whole." And I was like, "I've tried this many times. Yeah, I can eat it whole. It takes me like maybe 10, 20 minutes longer just to eat it. But yeah, I can put through a lot of food, and you do have to learn how to do that. Like I'm maybe around 6'2", and I hover at around 74, 75, 76 kilos, and I would have to put all my power and will and energy to trying to be like 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86.
Yeah.
I would have to be eating so much that it's near enough impossible. It's like, I'm not saying it's impossible because there's people who weigh way more than me who eat fruit based, but it's more of a challenge and effort.
I just wonder, does it outweigh
whether it's worth it?
Yeah. I mean,
like, what would I be doing it for? Apart from like, I don't know, maybe wanting to lift a bit more heavier weights or something like that.
Does it add? I know that's the thing, and I'm thinking, I really like to have a little bit more weight on me because I like to feel like church better. I like things to sit better on me, but it's interesting, like the raw food lifestyle. I was watching a lot of raw food videos, not watching a lot of like Luke Rogan at the moment. And so, you know, when I get on to someone and like I'm in love with them, it's like I can't get off Luke Rogan now. Because his approach, it's like sometimes I don't want to eat a lot of volume because sometimes I'm just tired of maybe the feeling of like, you know, a lot of volume in my belly. I just want to eat a lot lighter, less volume so my stomach's not as full. Because I just depending on where I'm at, sometimes I like that full, but I actually don't want to. But then calories is a problem. But the likes of Luke Corona that tends to lean on more the more dense foods, like the more nut creams and that. I find that that's a good way to make it more of a satiating meal without the volume. Because for people, there's some people they say that are volume eaters, and there's some people that aren't, and they just there's like that two different people. So you have to like find that feel like, well, they've got to lean into more denser foods, but they can still be well. Like he does, you know. I don't know if you know Luke Corona.
Yeah.
But he does those things, you know, fermented. So he says like they're well easy digested.
He's the guy that always does that, like
the plank.
That plank.
Yeah. So I would play around with that because I like the idea of he would say like if you're training or whatever, like the density and the long-term sustainability and getting those heavier, denser foods. He says it's more sustainable. Where for like you could have like a couple of mangoes and a couple of spoons of that, and you feel like you've eaten something heavy, but you would have to eat a lot more volume to feel the same satiation. And sometimes it's nice to have that version. So I actually go back and forth between Luke Corona style. It's like I don't want volume because it sort of puts me off my next meal, but if I eat a little bit less, a bit more dense, I'm ready for my next meal, and I can sometimes get more in. So I keep playing back and forward, but I think there's room for both. But it's a food group that, you know, he seems to be thriving out of the most all the raw vegans. He seems to be thriving most. He's all about, you know, good strength, endurance, power, and balance. And I wonder, you know, I think he has it sus, like.
I know for me personally, like, there's just physical limitations that prevent me from going down the more of like that higher fat stuff.
But that is it.
And this is why
I know.
The mucus systemic healing system by Arnold Ehret seems to speak to me so directly because I can't do the like nuts and not excess seeds and all these different things where I get like breakouts and skin issues and cysts and stuff. So I just find for me it's like super handy. Yeah, you definitely clean those in terms of like your lemon water wash.
Yeah,
I can tell the difference between my just shallow washing it on the sink.
I can't eat grapes now without it. Well, I tend to find if like I never usually touch grapes unless they're well soaked in like that's like lemon and salt and hot water, and they're maybe soaked for maybe an hour or two. Because I find without doing that, the skin, they stay in your mouth. The skin, you could chew it, and it doesn't even want to swallow. But the skin becomes so much more digestible. Yeah, it's like you can taste the difference. It's like they're really hard. Grapes is about the only one that I'm really fussy on cleaning because they don't digest. I think that there must be one that have your sprayed.
Maybe
because the skin's just like it stays like a thick rubber tire.
Really?
In my mouth. Yeah, and I kind of chew it.
I think if you've never tried something like that, you could do without really thinking about it. But once you try that, and then you go back to that.
No, yeah.
What have I been doing?
Yeah. So really, it makes a difference.
What would you say? I'm curious. Where do you think this whole carbohydrate fear comes from? When everybody, or at least to my knowledge, goes through a biology class in school at some stage and are told that we are basically advanced primates. And if they know that we're like advanced primates, and primates eat a diet of predominantly fruits and greens, how can we then have like influencers now being like, fruit's bad for you, carbohydrates bad for you, vegetables and greens are bad for you? It's like, where do you think this comes from?
You know, it's like there just seems to be something about, you know, people feel like a meal is only a meal when it has some animal protein into it. It's like there is that feeling of density in that. So to be fair, it does give that satiation effect. So people feel like, you know, because it has like, you know, it has that dense caloric need, I think it feeds more of a meal. Like, and that's where it's like you could have vegetables, but without that maybe dense in the chew, without that feeling, then maybe they feel like it's not a meal and being used with that. So where do they get that from? Like, why don't people feel like it's a meal without it? There's probably
just the whole fear of carbohydrates. Like you hear about people trying to lose weight, they're like, I'm cutting my carbs, you know, and they lump all carbs together, and like they consider pizza carbohydrate. Don't eat too much fruit, you know, it's got sugar in it. Everybody knows sugar makes you fat. And it's even to the point where, like, I have people that have said to me, in Ireland, you shouldn't eat too much potatoes because they contain a lot of carbs and carbs make you fat. And I'm like, I'm not even from here. Like, people relied on potatoes, and there was no obesity issues when like the majority of the diet was potatoes. Like, what?
Yeah, where did that come from? Well, you know, like, well, the whole fitness realm, I always say I thought that I was like maybe very, I don't know, like susceptible to like weight gain with carbohydrates, because there is drilled in that in the fitness community. You want to keep a low carbohydrate diet, but keep high protein, keep your fats. And I think when you have more protein, more fat in, carbohydrates destroy easy because, you know, it's excess calories, but you can't get carbohydrates into the cells or that fat in your cells. So I think it does have that effect. But if you cut out all the crap, like what I experienced was that I kept my carbs high and brought the protein down, fat down, slimmed right up. Like, so yeah, where did they get this notion? It is, yeah. I never minded, like I never mind generations before talking about it. Like I never mind like my grandparents talking about what's your carbohydrates, or, you know, don't eat any potatoes or anything. Like,
because they were living on mainly spuds. Same as like in Asia, they were living on mainly rice and vegetables. It's like, what? It's like, imagine like being a grandparent in like rural like Asia or something like that, like having generations of like your family like cultivating mainly rice and vegetables, or like not consuming dairy products, and very little to no meat, and then like a couple of you see like your like grandchildren growing up or something like that, and they're like, yeah, don't you know that rice makes you fat and all this, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
It's like, well, I haven't made anyone fat yet, but they're fat, but they're not even eating rice. Yeah.
It will always perplex me.
Yeah, and especially because most carbohydrates are like a vegetable. You know, so like, you know, to think that vegetables then are bad for you, or fruit, you know, you have to really question it, but we're so easily manipulated, you know,
It's too easy.
Yeah. Well, how did you fall into this lifestyle?
Ooh, mine was like, I kept on getting boils. which are like really like huge cystic like acne things. No, they really sort of touch, and it would just be really gross and embarrassing. And I was getting like lots of antibiotics to deal with it. But whenever I moved to university, I didn't really have that like safety of like, oh, my doctor's just nearby. I had to like now travel 60 miles just to go to like a doctor. So, and because I was in uni, I was in this like sort of like environment of wanting to learn. So I was watching lots of TED Talks. And I came across a TED Talk by John McDougall that was basically saying that like exactly what we're saying, where it's just like he was taking care of a different generation of like workers in the in like I forget what it was, like a plantation. It was a sugar plantation. Yeah, sugar plantation. First generation, second generation, third generation, like fourth generation, and he found that the older generation were living on mainly rice and vegetables, and they were living to like an old age, not like really suffering any health issues. And then every generation that went by, that became more westernized, they became more overweight, suffered with more chronic illnesses, more issues, needed to perform more like surgeries and work on them. And then it was just like, there's clearly a connection here that like the more westernized they ate, the worse they became. So I adopted like a starch-based lifestyle from there, and started to see like my health issues go away. But really good fortune actually hit me, because like the second book I ever downloaded on my Kindle back then was the Mucocystis Healing
No
System.
way.
Yeah.
What a book.
And it was only because I was already in the habit of looking up plant-based lifestyle, and it was one of like the recommended books, and it had like really good rating. And then I looked at the title, I saw like plant-based diet, fasting, and I saw the comments. People were just like, this book is like amazing, changed my life, it's like the Bible, etc. So I bought it, and straight away I was like reading it, and I was like, this book is challenging my worldview, because now I was already in the stream of like, oh, starch-based lifestyle, that's the thing for humans. And then this book was kind of challenging that a bit, saying that human beings should be more fruit-based, and do intermittent fasting, and that a lot of these starches, on some level, to depending on what they are, they can be problematic. Fruits and greens is the ideal food. So that was challenging my worldview, especially as like a little student, like at 19. But that sort of laid the bedrock to then, whenever I found Freely the Banana Girl, the high carb, like raw food community, I was like, okay, there's actually a community of people in the world doing a high carb, low fat, fruit based lifestyle. So that's what sort of set me on the trajectory of wanting to learn. And I just find that the more fruits and greens I consume, the better I feel, whether it's raw or cooked. So
it's true. The more fruit you eat, I like it because you can eat a lot of fruit but not have that heavy feeling. You're full, but you're not heavy and bogged down, and that's what I like something about it. If people like to eat a lot, but you're not just like dead for it, which makes me feel like, oh wow, it's hard to read. It just serves you well. No, likewise, that's where then I went to, because I got on to the Freely as well, and then the Chiang Mai was like a big thing in Thailand, so went out there.
Oh, you went?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Did you go to the bike whenever they were doing the whole?
I wasn't there at that time. I went there, but they were they were there when I was there, but the whole community was still there.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to experience like the fruit lifestyle, and
So you find people who you could just chill, talk about the stuff with.
They got it. No why? And they could make it possible because I knew that warm climate and the tropical fruit and everything else.
Were you cycling as well? Going up those tap and stuff?
Well, I didn't do that there, but
whatever you
I was only there for maybe a week because I was in Asia and I was traveling around a bit, but I still wanted to go Chiang Mai. It was cool. And I went back actually last year to Chiang Mai again.
Oh wow!
That was like 10 years ago, and then I went back last year again. Just to.
It's on the bucket list for me.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Now it's like it's a city, and I'm not like a city guy, but it's still cool. Like I'll go back, but it's just it's a long way away. A lot of traveling.
How long is it? Like 11 hours or something?
Well, from doorstep to doorstep was like 36 hours. But that was the first travel. But I went to the islands. I went to Koh Phangan first. So from here to Dublin, then Dublin to Dubai, Dubai to Bangkok, and then Bangkok to Koh Samui, and then I had to get the ferry from there, and then like a taxi. There. Yeah, it was too much shopping. But
You must have been absolutely wrecked.
See the first 4 or 5 days, I was. The culture shock was hard. The humidity was deadly. I was getting eaten alive. I wish I never left. I wanted to go.
He was getting hit from all sides.
I was. The first 5 days I was dying. I thought to myself, I wish I never left. It was a mistake. Oh, I'm good.
Just a shell of a person.
Oh, I was there, and after I realised it was raining. It was like it wasn't really safe. It was raining all the time. So at night you couldn't sleep because the wind and rain. Rained all day. Humidity. So what it was when I was there for a week, I thought I went up to Chiang Mai because it's far more like the weather's far nicer. Like it's cooler. It's not as warm, but it's not as humid. So my advice is like, don't be going to the south. It's just humid. To go to the north, like Chiang Mai, beautiful, cool. So yeah, 30 degrees during the day, but maybe 10 at night. So you can get to sleep without air conditioning. It's great. Like.
So it's just a better.
Yeah.
Better
But it was crazy. Like, but yeah, and then, but yeah, I go through notions of like. For things, sometimes I think like the season for things. Sometimes I want to be 100%. But I'm that type of person. Like right. Raw vegan, this is it. I'm, to the degree of, but everything changes and you have to keep a little script because sometimes you have to be. Even though there's people that love it and swear it, and like the Luke Coronas that are on it for 50 years, but he's in California. Like I wanted to know if he could do it in Ireland. Like I believe he probably could, but I haven't seen anyone here 100%.
I think you don't have to be 100%. You can incorporate part of it into your week. Like last year, I did 2 days fully raw, like every week for the whole year. And the year before that, I did 1 day fully raw. Oh, yeah. Just because I'm like, I kind of like get in the mindset of like, yeah, let me just do it 100%. But then part of me is just like, is this really gonna be me forever? You know what I mean? Am I really? Is this really gonna be it?
Yeah.
But whenever I do like 1 day fully raw per week, I don't have those thoughts. I'm just like, I'm just gonna do fully raw today. And then I still get a bit of those benefits. Yeah. But it's not like, oh, this has to be forever or anything like that. Yeah. And then whenever I did 2, and then this year I just said, okay, maybe not 3 days fully raw, but 3 days just on fruits and greens, cooked or raw. So now I'm gonna like accumulate like 150 days on fruits and greens, and my body has adapted to that. So next year, if I want to, I'll be able to move it up to 4. Yeah. And just sort of go from there. So that's why I find that like if you can't do the whole like gung ho strategy, that can be a more sustainable sort of way to go about it. Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. I think you have to. I find the same. I felt like I was doing at the moment like doing 2 meals a day, one's fruit meal and one's like sort of starch based. I feel like I'm getting all the benefits of the raw part of it, but I get the satiation effect from the other. But it's like there's balance to it, but still you don't have to be 100% to be healthy or heal. So it's like, well, then let's find that middle road. It's a long game. So it's like I'd rather. They say if you put a grain of sand in a jar every day, you'll have 7 jars filled. And I'd rather put 1 grain in than try to put 10 in one day, and then the jar will work spilling. And I'm like, give me like setting the bar low, but sustainable, really. Would you have like a go-to starchy food you prefer?
I'll go just between sweet potatoes and rice. I eat a lot of rice pudding. Like so we like, but maybe cook up rice with maybe oat milk with maybe some cacao, so like a chocolatey rice pudding or vanilla, and that's really great. Like sometimes put fruit in it, so it's like really comfort food. In this country,
you're doing a lot of strength stuff as well, because like the whole misconception that like you can't really be strong at all, like whenever you're eating, not only like a plant-based diet, like a vegan lifestyle, but even a fruit-based one.
Yep. And like I will say, like I always felt stronger in my 20s when I was eating higher animal protein, higher foods than now, but I don't feel as healthy. And I feel like if you want to blow up, animal is far more.
Like Ronnie Coleman style.
Yeah. Well, but they only get bigger. You know, animal proteins are more weight gaining foods. Like there are more building foods. They say
there's no set point with
No.
animal protein
No.
or animal.
So like if that's
foods.
your goal, but sometimes like you gotta see what you find a middle ground. But I think naturally like more plant based is naturally more healthy, which keeps you naturally on the lighter end.
Mm.
But when you feel better, you're happier. Like so.
There's no point being jacked and like strong if you die at like 45 or something.
Not if you feel like
you're like crap.
Feel like crap. It's not worth it. No. You get as years go on, you get a wee bit more wiser. I was like no, but I There's actually one part of a journey, maybe about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I was vegan for like 10 years, and I thought to myself, I wonder what would happen if I added animal products back in because I've been 100%.
Wow.
So I said I'll put this challenge because there was a lot of time at the time where people were feeling those better, adding this back in, and I wanted to experiment. One, I'm experimenting all the time. I was like, well, let's see what happens. Do I feel amazing? Adding this in and that in, and what's the results? Because the results, because who knows, maybe vegan diet is forever, maybe it's only a short term, I don't know. So that's what I did do. I thought of like all the animal foods and I put them on a list, maybe 10 of them. And I said I'm going to incorporate this into my meal and see how I feel. I'm very in tune with my body, so I'll know straight away how I feel that day and how I feel the next day. So I added in, which will maybe put some people off, but I wanted to experiment. So it's like all animal protein. I couldn't like red meat, eggs, fish, whitefish, salmon, like yogurt. I didn't add in dairy, but I added like sheep's yogurt and I couldn't even handle the idea of poultry, so I couldn't do that. Just mentally I knew it was it, but I wanted to see how I felt on these foods, so that's alright. So I am very in tune with instinct as well. So I felt like with fruits and vegetables, you see it, it looks good, it smells good. Every part of my instinct.
Animals?
No. So buying it doesn't add up, looking at it doesn't add up, smelling it doesn't appeal, the cooking doesn't appeal, but I was still intrigued to see how my body would respond, whether you would feel better or not. So I added the red meat in. It was just interesting to see because I sort of wanted to be in tune with what was going on. Is these vegans that are going back, is that the truth? Is there a point? But I felt the red meat.
Yeah.
I ate that and I felt like a sore head come on and I sort of felt heavy. But it was still very satiating, although at the time it was felt like the texture, and I didn't like the texture. It was rotten, I didn't like the idea of texture, but there was still some sort of satisfying feeling, but it's very grinding. But it is more like weighs you down grinding, like a bog down, like there's probably people will say feels to be very grounded on it, and I get that, but it's more like weighed down grinding, not what you want, but maybe at times or maybe it's a choice for it. So I thought, okay, that was interesting.
Yep.
Then I tried fish, I tried whitefish, and I actually tried salmon the next time. And because I thought, people say salmon, you'll really appreciate it. I was like, well, let's see. And I ate it, and did I enjoy it? It was not really. No, I wasn't really. It looked like the pink color looks good, but all the white fat around it put me off. But I ate it anyway because I wanted to disconnect any intuitiveness. And I woke up the next day and my eyes were nearly stuck together with pus, like pus and mucus out of that body. It's like my body and the odor in my armpits. I'm like, oh my goodness, it is poison. But the mucus and pus in my eyes, it felt like a newborn kitten trying to open them. I was like, what muck like? So I was like, wow, that is poison. I don't know anything about that. Whitefish, I ate that. It's a lot less fat content and it didn't have the same effect, but it's made my body odor rank. And I thought, wow. So it's a no-go. It's like
crazy to observe that. I mean, like I could never personally. I like for me, whenever it comes to even the idea of consuming animal products, because like the first week, whenever I truly committed to the ethical aspects of a vegan lifestyle, I watched slaughterhouse footages every day for a week.
Whoa.
Like straight every day. I didn't miss a day. And I wasn't doing this out of like just being like, I just wanted to torment myself or anything. I just was so uneducated about where my food was coming from, and the fact that like I could watch something that's so upsetting from a food that I'd thought to myself for so many years that, oh, this is like my favorite food. Oh, I love cat. You know, I love all these foods. Now every time I even think of eating something, or even an old smell of like a barbecue that I used to love, like, you know, gets registered by my brain, it automatically just connects all the images that I saw or that I currently see. And almost kind of like a trauma response, and I'm like, whoa, nope.
Wow.
So I have heard of people going back and stuff like that. I just personally, I would do everything before I did that. Like doctor, blood test, you know, freaking
100%.
Especially coming back from the vegan campsite, and you're like, there's vegan doctors, there's Dr. Gregor there.
Yeah, was he
there? Yeah, Dr. Gregor's at the vegan campsite. There's other like UK doctors that like you're watching on plant-based news, and like you're hearing them talking about all the different issues, and I was like, man, if I was ever struggling, I would at least try to contact one of these guys and see what's going on.
Yeah.
It's an interesting experiment.
I wanted to know for myself to know, you get in a routine, you eat a certain way, and you don't know whether you do it out of habit or, you know, instinct, and I wanted to know how I felt each one, because you can say it'd be different, but I'm in tune, so I sort of knew every time I look at something, I smell something, I know I'm drawn to it, because I don't want to deny my body something, and I don't want to feel like I know it all, so I want to be humble enough to feel like it's not a religion. If I want to still have the choice to do whatever I want, so it's sort of like I'm still empowered, not feel like I'm boxed in, because I don't want to be labelled in anything. I want to be, if whatever I need to do, I have the choice, but at least I have the awareness, so no one can say, well, if you tried that, you'd feel loads better. It's like, well, I've done that, and it was really clean, so I know how I responded exactly from every part of my body. I've tried everything, and nothing's best than, like, you know, fruit's always number one. Like, it comes back, even at that, fruit's still number one. But now you have that more awareness. You know, even any food, sometimes it doesn't react to you. But
I think for me, I had like at the very beginning of my journey, like whenever I was fully plant-based. I saw the like animal rights stuff, and then I would get drunk or something at the very beginning of my journey, maybe like the first 6 months. I'd get drunk, and then like my ex or something at the time would like, I think she was vegetarian. Like she's still vegetarian. She would like bring home like a cheese pizza. Like I'd one drunk one night, I would like have one slice, but like really cheesy pizza. You could still see like oil on it and stuff like that. Yeah. Then I remember waking up the next day feeling so bad. Not like just like morally speaking, but like physically just feeling awful. And then I'd be like, wow, like all the stuff that I watch the animals go through, and I don't even feel good. You know what I mean? I feel worse.
It wasn't worth it.
So I was like, nah, I never do that ever.
It's good that they in the body. Sometimes you need that reminder of like, you know, because sometimes you're like, did I feel that bad? It's like, no, you eat something, do something, or you know, like there's dairy in something and you don't know about it, you know straight away. It's like to have that, the body naturally that in tune again. It's good. No, and you want it that clean. Most people don't feel the feeling of that because they haven't really cleaned out enough. It's like now you want to come off something where I felt like I knew when vegan was like the right way because I've done diets before where I've did it pretty much every diet you can think of, but I always had loads of you know, that type of binge out feeling all the time, would have binged out all the time, but whenever I went like high carb, I never binged, and I never desired animal protein ever after that, or rich fatty foods, and I thought, wow, this felt right, where other times I would have restricted that part, I never desired it, so like your in tuneness became, but I always sort of explain to people like, well, if I had to come off oranges, say for a year, I know rightly, you know, I would still create that orange, but if you go off like animal products, once your body's cleaned out, you don't desire them because they smell different, they look different, You walk past the butcher's or a fish market, and like if it smells that bad, why would you put it in it? Or if it turns you that bad, how can something smell so bad and you want to eat that? I would think something's off, you know. Or like to eat,
or even to think about, like I've said this to so many people before. Would you even want to kill an animal? It's not even can you kill an animal. Do you want to kill an animal? Like, could you go over to that cow with a knife and just have the desire to actually just want to slit the cow's throat? No, like I mean, like I can't speak for everybody. Maybe there's people out there who like get a thrill out of that, maybe hunters and stuff or whatever. But most people have enough empathy and understanding that these individuals feel pain. They're sentient, and the idea of taking a knife and just going to bed at night being like, I literally just killed an animal. Most people don't want that on their backs. That's why they're more than happy to kind of have it being done in the background.
Sure.
But whenever it's put right in front of them, a lot of people don't want to do anything.
No.
Like, they don't want to be associated with it, and that's just what I find personally.
Oh.
But fruit, I'll hunt the fruit down any day. You know, give me blueberry.
Well,
hunt that apple down.
Well, fruit, every sense I find is triggered with fruit though. It's like why I feel like it's all your senses, like as soon as you see it, it's appealing. But other foods, like, you know, are not visually appealing to eat. But if your sight's good, if they smell good, if it feels good, tastes good, every sense is switched on. I feel like, well, it's so in tune. Unless all those senses are hit with any other thing that I eat, well then it's like it's not really food. It's not like drawn to it. So you really become more in tune. It's like, all right, so if I see an egg, it looks like food for a reptile. There's no desire to eat that. And you know, smelling it, there's no desire. You know, cooking, there's no desire. It's only at the last part when you're eating it that there's pleasure with the product. So I'm like, well, you're missing all your natural, which I think they need to be in there. They're in place to tell you what's food.
Yep. So
you're actually bypassing a lot. You're missing this. It's like, well, you need to go on and looking at the food, shopping for it, smelling it, feeling it, getting in around it to know in tune. I never write a shopping list because I don't know what I want till I go there, and I just pick what colours that I like and what I see because I know my body wants that. And it's that intuitiveness, because it's like you need to see it with your eyes first, and then you need to be lifting up and looking at it, smelling it, feeling it, and then you know it's exactly what you want. I'm trying to get that in tune, but with any other else you can't do that, and that's where I think that's the like fruit and veg for the win.
And I think that even with greens. Greens seem to be very, very pleasing to the human eye. Like if you just go out and look at like a big green field, there's something about it that's like, you know what I mean? Something very relaxing about it. And I think it's been studied to be one of the most calming colours for humans. But it makes sense. Like, I'm just surrounded by like some like fruit and green, like forest or green forest, greenery. Yeah. And I like some people say they don't naturally like vegetables, but I think if you eat enough sweet to the point where you're like, oh, I've had too much sweet, you'll want to kind of balance that out with something like savory. So I think that like that's what greens kind of are. You know what I mean? That's why you see bonobos and stuff like that. They eat quite a lot of greens and stuff.
And I think it's like intuitive of like the green. They say like the chlorophyll and the greens, like it's full of magnesium, but they say the structure compartment that it replicates, you know, our blood.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so it's like the chlorophyll life in the green is exactly the same structural component as the blood in our body. So it's like why it's so like in part of it. It's like, so people do like, I always find like that like a green juice, it really calmed my body, and it felt like, well, because it's full of magnesium, it's in the blood. So the greens are a massive part. Massive part, because if they copy, you can see them, if you see it before and after, we'll show a clip of the blood, the chlorophyll and the blood, see them hexagonal parts. I'm like, wow, that needs to be in our diet, and it's full of magnesium, and we're always magnesium low, less. So I think greens have to be part of it.
And the biophotons as well.
Okay, yeah.
It's a missing piece in like the health movement and the spiritual movement in physics. It's a missing piece. Like I was even talking to someone yesterday that's really into spirituality and stuff like that. They did not know what biophotons were, but they knew what photosynthesis is. They knew that, like, you know, plants convert sunlight energy to their own natural energy that they use, but they don't know that that stored energy is called a biophoton, and that whenever we consume a lot more biophotons, we feel more connected. Our cells work more efficiently. I think it explains why a lot more raw foodists tend to be into like more hippie spirituality. You know what I mean? People who are like bankers and stuff, as soon as they go raw, they're like, you know, I'm gonna give this up. And go to some commune or somewhere. You become more in tune, and it does lead to that, because it's like, you know, it opens the doorway up of like a cleaner, lighter body, cleaner, lighter mind, but also you want to, I don't know, when you've come to that cleaner lifestyle, you've let go of so much. You're so much willing to let go of more. Where I was like a bodybuilder and I wouldn't have missed a meal, animal protein every meal, and I would never have thought of being here now fasting on the fruits. But I let go so much now. I'm willing to let go of everything and take on more. So it's like it's a slow journey for a lot of people. It's like if they are holding on to stuff, it's like, okay, they're not ready for that. But if you've got to like that plant-based fruitarian lifestyle, you're so much more further on. It's like, yeah, you're more connected because you're less sort of shackled to things. So it's a journey, like, yeah. But you're open-minded, like. It's amazing.
That's good, boy.
Pretty sure I have a lot of content. That's like 46 minutes. Wow. That's crazy.